You're listening to the Go Be the Church podcast.
And then after your kids are grown and gone, it will still be you and your spouse.
Something that our culture does is say, think about you first. And that's where we're going to fall short.
There's a difference between having a healthy, thriving marriage versus just don't get divorced.
Marriage and parenting is a mirror.
Yeah.
And mirrors are oftentimes way easier to break than they are to stare at.
Marriage is often called the ultimate team sport, but even the best teams face challenges. In this episode, we have an honest and helpful conversation about navigating the ups, downs, and rounds of marriage. Specifically, we'll want to debunk bad marriage viewpoints and provide practical tools for building a healthy marriage from a Christ-centered perspective. Whether you're hoping for marriage, newly married, or have been together for decades, this conversation will give you the tools and inspiration to strengthen your bond and deepen your connection to one another.
Welcome to another episode of the Go Be the Church podcast. I am joined today with three special guests, and so I've got my wife Diana to my left, and then joined with Katlyn and Ben Morin. And we are here today to talk about conspiracy theories. So Ben,
Buckle up, people.
buckle up. No, today's episode is going to be covering marriage. And I think it's safe to say none of us have been married for super long, but it's not like we're newlyweds either. And there's probably people who have been married longer than we've been alive, and their thoughts might be like, wow, you guys totally botched this, and that's okay. So we're going to do our best in trying to figure that out.
One.
That's right. Yeah. We're going to bring the real.
Debunk all of our thoughts. It's fine.
Yeah. So let's start just with Katlyn and Ben. Why don't you guys just briefly, who are you, how long you've been married, and what is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Oh, you're going to be able to choose?
Am I able to choose?
Yeah.
That is a tough question. I'm Katlyn, as in Ben. We've been married for 13 years. Yep, 13 years this year. We've been together for 16.
I love how you answered, and Ben was like, yeah, 13 sounds right.
I'm fact
He was
checking.
like, I was totally going to say that.
I'll let you know if you're wrong on anything, but go ahead. Ladies first.
Ice cream flavor, that is tough. I'm one of those, like, a different flavor that's made into ice cream, like cake batter or like cookie dough or brownie batter. You know, any of those kind of like, they're meant to be a different food, but in ice cream form.
So do you like the off-the-wall Lay's potato chips, like the chicken and waffle Lay's?
No.
Okay, good, because those are nasty.
No, I'm a
Correct.
sweet girl.
That's a little too much of a stretch.
Yeah.
So.
What's your favorite ice cream?
Oh, I don't know. I'd like mint chocolate chip.
Let's go.
That's a pretty solid
You ever had
flavor.
mint
Classic.
Moose Tracks?
I'm a little weird with ice cream.
Did you say goose tracks?
Moose Tracks.
I said goose tracks. I was like, I don't want goose
No,
tracks.
mint
ice cream.
Moose Tracks.
I bet that's phenomenal.
Banger. It's a straight banger.
I like to let my ice cream melt before I
Yes.
eat it. I'm one of those.
He
So
eats
like
ice cream
full
soup.
Slurp it?
I
Yes.
basically
Like,
do like a
he stirs it until
hand-mixed
it's
milkshake.
So it's not like
Consistency.
watery.
So first tension in
But-
marriage was, why did I marry a sociopath who does this?
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I
Yeah.
love ice cream, but he's very picky. If we go to an ice cream place, they have to have milkshakes, and he doesn't understand, like, why doesn't every ice cream place have a blender?
Sure.
Like, why
Just
would
buy
you
a blender.
not?
Just buy a blender.
What are we doing?
Maybe you
guys.
should buy them a blender.
I
They're
have thought
missing
about
out.
it a lot.
Yeah.
Main scoop.
I think
looking at
he's
you, Main
actually
Scoop.
genuinely offered before, like, if I brought in a blender, would you make me a
would you guys-
milkshake?
Hey, there it is. There it is. All
I
right,
don't know.
well,
It's
cool.
something my grandpa used to do. He would let it sit under a light
Yeah.
while he like read, and then
Okay.
once it got
There you go.
to a point, he would
Well,
eat
cool.
it.
So married 13 years.
Yep.
3 kids. Technically, 4 kids.
3 and a
Three.
quarter.
No, it's a
Three and a
kid.
half.
We believe
Yeah.
life
Yes.
starts at conception here. Over the tomb. So you have 4 children. One is
We
just
sure do.
not
Very
in
tiny.
the physical world. Well, in the
We haven't
Anyways.
seen with our eyes
Yes,
yet.
correct. So yeah, awesome. And it's
Yep.
going to be named Eric, boy or girl, probably.
Definitely.
We've already made
Yep.
those arrangements, so that's pretty good. All
Yep.
right. Well, Diana, how long have we been married for?
Also 13
Also
years.
13
Hey,
years.
what's
Dang.
up?
Hey-o.
Super lucky number, from what I know.
It's one of the best.
Yeah. Favorite ice cream? Also similar to Katlyn, cookie dough.
Mm.
That's more traditional than cake batter, though, I feel like.
That's true. Tonight dough is like my jam.
It's
if I
like
were
the
to
Jimmy
have
Fallon, Ben & Jerry's.
any ice cream,
Oh.
like that
It's
is
delicious.
Haven't tried it.
insane.
It's like cookie dough, brownie batter,
Oh, yeah. That's
chocolate vanilla ice cream all in one.
You're saying
sounds
all the
fantastic.
right words.
Yes, those are all the right things.
That's
So
great.
after we finish this, we
Let's just go
Yeah,
get
That's
a
right. It's fantastic. I am also a mint guy.
Nice.
Hey, look
That's
at
wild.
Did we just become best friends?
Not surprised.
Were we already best friends?
I mean, pretty close.
HYB. All right. So yeah, before we dive into some of the questions, just want to offer a couple caveats. I think the first caveat is we are not marriage professionals. We are not marriage therapists. We don't have everything figured out. So today we are talking more as people who have been married and fairly successfully, or if it's, I don't know.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. But by no means is it let us tell you how this ought to work. And every marriage is different. It's all a living organism. So there's a little bit of that as well, too. I also want to give the caveat because we know there's people in our church and context who listen to this who are not married. And so whether they're single, widowed, divorced, desire to be married, maybe they desire to be, God's called them to a life of celibacy. Our hope is for this podcast in particular that, especially if you are not married and desire to be married, this can give the listeners some framework or context of what should I be looking for, how should I be preparing myself for my future spouse and whatnot. For those of you who are maybe no desire to be married, maybe follow along, have some fun, and laugh about how life is hard enough as it is. So yeah, just want to give those caveats before we get too far. But this episode is very much talking about marriage, and that does not mean we are better humans or loved more by God or more valuable to the church, but it's a real context for a lot of people. So just wanted to start with those caveats. So I just want to start by, when it comes to talking about marriage, how would you define marriage? There's what is marriage, or maybe another way to put it would be, what would be, when you think of attributes or characteristics of a healthy marriage, what even just comes to mind to start?
Ladies first.
Ladies first.
Okay, I would say grace. You need endless amounts of grace for each other, for yourself. And I do feel like that is something that I am still learning to this day, is how to give you more grace and myself more grace.
I give endless amounts, so I've got this down.
But it is definitely something that has helped our marriage a lot.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think when you asked the question, there were some individual words that came to mind.
Yeah.
Would be a union, a covenant, and a partnership.
Yeah.
I say that last one probably leans into both a definition and also what makes things a success or healthy is that both people are in it and both people are contributing and working with it.
Yeah.
Assuming their roles, I think is
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, intended for contention in all senses of that word. So it's going to be probably weird at first when you're getting to know people, but as you learn them, you kind of figure out where your strengths and weaknesses are and where they're not, and where your partners are and where they're not. And then you have to kind of figure out how those pieces fit together.
Absolutely. No, that's super good. Sure, I was trying to think if there's any other words. I think all of those. Companionship is another word.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we talk biblically, I mean, it's very much it is a covenant thing. And the word covenant isn't just. I think there's a difference between, and we'll probably wade into some of this. There's a difference between having a healthy, thriving marriage versus just don't get divorced. And I hope that's what we can kind of pull on today. Is what is the characteristics or the markers between, you can have two people who've been married, say 50 years and have radically different experiences. One of them says, we didn't get divorced, but we functionally just became roommates over time, versus it's been 50 years, maybe not of bliss, but of a covenant, of a union, of a partnership, lots of grace, love. The other thing too, even before we started recording, it's a parallel for God's love and use of the church for us. So it's like the preeminent mirror that God provides in Jesus and his love for us as well too in marriage. So that partnership, I think, is a huge thing, bathed in grace with the foundation of love at the center. So what do you guys think of 13 years of marriage then? What are, I don't know, this kind of a fun question. It could be lighthearted or it could be serious. Either or works, I guess. But what's either the best piece of marriage advice you've ever gotten, or what's the worst piece of marriage advice you've ever gotten? And if it's worst piece, who was it and why do you want to
Let's go. So I have maybe a controversial worst marriage advice, because I think there are people out there who would probably say this is the best marriage advice.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I'm going to argue it's the worst. And who it came from, probably a whole lot of people say it. And that is never go to bed angry. I think it's the worst advice because I am not my best self at 3 a.m. Do not push me to like continue to have this conversation that's going in circles. I think something that's like, we've talked about this a lot, like a certain level of disagreement and conflict is actually healthy, but also understanding each other's like ways of dealing with conflict and communication styles is even more important.
Right?
Yeah, right. Like sometimes people need a chance to step back and process it or whatever. And for me, it's like if I go to bed and I'm upset, but I feel fine about it in the morning, then it wasn't a big enough deal to have like stayed up all night and hashed out and gone through all of that. But if I'm still bothered by it, then it's like, all right, this warrants like some further conversation when I'm well rested.
There you go.
What comes to mind is the happy wife, happy life.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think that is misleading.
Yeah.
I think you are intended to put your spouse's well-being ahead of your own. Like there's that sacrificial piece, but I think the better term is like happy spouse, happy house. So it's not just a one way. Because if you're with somebody who is more submissive or non-confrontational and they just compromise all the time, you end up with a domineering person and somebody who's never really had the chance to kind of be the part of the marriage that they wanted to be, if that makes sense. So yeah, just kind of being aware of like, I think we were talking earlier about like it's not to fight, but we're not fighting dirty. Like you have to understand the rules of engagement and know that you're both, there's an intent for both of you to be better. Like marriage and parenting is a mirror. Yeah. And mirrors are oftentimes way easier to break than they are to stare at.
Ooh.
And it's like
that'll preach right there.
That's where God's gonna refine you.
Yeah.
But it has to be intentional, right? Like you have to look at it and know like, oh, this is ugly. I need to change whatever it is.
Yeah, the saying I use in premarital counseling is the goal isn't to not fight, it's to fight fair. Like we're two broken, sinful people who hopefully have been redeemed by the blood of Jesus, but we still make mistakes. We're still selfish, egotistical, lack forgiveness, or let our anger get the best of us, fill in the blank. And so therefore, we're gonna have conflict, and we're gonna have to figure out a way through it. If the goal is like, don't fight, then I think that is a breeding ground for unresolved conflict or resentment, and things are gonna fester. And that's like way worse because that builds contempt, and then contempt is probably the leading, like underlying emotion that leads to a dissolved union there. So those are good.
Yeah. The other side too, if you're fighting too much, right? If it's only fighting, like there's a healthy balance of the and there's a pocket of those contention.
People too. Like they are addicted to like the drama. They're addicted to and some of that could go into their how the home they grew up in was like, my parents fought all the time. That's just what a marriage is two people just fighting, and like that ain't it either. So that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so mine fights with a lot of modern culture where it's you do you, boo, right? Or in the words of The Bachelor, follow your heart, right? All of those things is just going to lead you down a path of selfishness. And that's not what marriage is at all. And I feel like something that our culture does is say, think about you first. And that's where we're going to fall short.
Yeah. I don't think we were designed to be able to see ourselves. If you think about life prior to technology, like
before a mirror existed,
or glass, or like maybe if you caught some really still water, you catch your own reflection, but everything is inward out. And I think, culture definitely tells you like, you first, what do you want? Follow your truth.
Like the die to self is not there in that.
It's not there.
That's super good.
But I know we went on like the worst advice, so I'll like kind of change that.
Nice. That's really good advice out there.
Don't do that.
It was really cool. Eric and I got to go on a little getaway on vacation a couple weeks ago.
Tan, Ben?
You do. I was going to say that, but I wanted to wait.
For those of you who are only listening, know that he's tan.
The sun was very warm.
It was
but I will say that something that came up in conversation was something that I feel like has never been a point of hardship for us is money. And I mean, we got married at 21. It was wild, our salary. I didn't have a salary because I was still in school. Like, we were living off of nothing. So for us, like, money has never been at the forefront of our heart. We, you know. So anyway, I would like to introduce you to the best person ever, which is Dave Ramsey, because I think that's something, that's a tool that really helped our marriage, because he taught us that money is a tool to use in life, but it's not what your heart needs to be centered around. And so live below your means is super important. And no matter who makes more in the relationship, it's an even playing field. Like, it all goes into one bank account. It's his money is my money. We're spending, you know, the same amount on our fun things that we want to do. Like, if I decide I want to save my section, that's fine. Like, I'll save up for something. Same with him. So nobody has this like, oh, well, you got to do this, I want to do that. So I feel like we've learned like a lot from using that tool to really strengthen our marriage, so we have not fallen to using money as an idol.
Yeah, it's probably one of the quickest ways to build up resentment towards one another. If you have one spouse who makes significantly more than the other, or if you have one spouse who works and one who stays home, and if it's, well, it's your money and my money, and it's not our money. And so that's one of the things in marital counseling, premarital counseling, you have to change that vernacular. It's not my money and your money, it's our money. It's not your debt and my debt, it's our debt.
Right.
So it all becomes one. And that's the thing, I think, what marriage is two becoming one flesh. And so that's not just a reference to sexual intimacy. It is a complete mingling of souls and intertwining of our spirits and our lives in every facet of the term. And I think that's the thing that, you know, I kind of see and sense right now with a lot of marriages is we will intertwine some parts, but I'm not going to intertwine everything, almost at all our parts. But like, you know, and so I think that's one of the things that is become part of our culture is, yeah, you do you, or you do whatever. You give only the certain parts you want to, but you can hold back for yourself. The amount of couples who I talk to, whether it's premarital counseling, who have zero indication or zero desire to have a joint bank account. And it's like, what are you going to do? Like, you're going to Venmo each other back and forth and request. But what happens if she makes 3 times as much money as you do, or vice versa? Like, does she get to go on vacations, but you don't? Like, there's just this. And I think it's like the quickest way to build up distrust as well too, because that just speaks to there's something else in your life that you have control issues over. And if the one person you're committing your life to, you can't even trust them with your bank account, then what else are you going to be withholding from them as time goes on? So,
well, and you're both like, what a selfish approach. Right. Yeah. Like, it's this whole thing is like, let us come together and pool our resources versus like, this is what I can do versus this is what you can do. It's like, you're already kind of diverging, and maybe that's not obvious in the beginning, but 10, 15, 20 years go by and then all of a sudden you're looking at somebody, you don't even recognize them. And what money issues are one of the leading causes of divorce, like financial stress.
Number 2. Number 1 is unresolved or irreconcilable differences is like what it's labeled. The way I talk about it is it's unmet expectations that usually result of unexpressed expectations for a lot of people. And then so that backs into what I say what would be like the worst advice that I often hear is, well, it's a 50-50 game. And that speaks, well, if I do my part and then I'm just waiting for you to do your part, well, how do you know you're doing your part, first and foremost? Right. And second of all, that's not what marriage is. It's like you are to be strong when the other is weak and vice versa. And so it's 100-100. You know, it's not a sum total of 100. The goal is for both people to be serving and loving and submitting to one another mutually out of love, and everything in that too. So,
or if it is 50-50, like the goal is to get to 100, right? And maybe I had a rough day. I got 20 at best. Like, I need your 80. 50-50.
Yeah.
Like I need you to make up that difference.
Yeah, as long as the whole, like the goal is wholeness together.
Right.
Not, I've done my part, I'm waiting for you to do yours.
You think about people like across the room. It's like, oh, I've stepped to the middle and I'm just standing there waiting. Like, you're still not together at all.
Yeah, right. Like Hitch. I've gone 90. You went 100. You're supposed to go all 100. You lean in 90.
How long do I wait?
Yeah, that's right. You just wait, man.
As long as it takes.
So that kind of, backs into, I don't know, maybe the next topic, if you will. When you think about marriage today, and there's always this tendency of, well, let's just get back to the way it used to be traditionally, because that was when it was best and perfect and ideal. Maybe there's things that are true, maybe not. But when it comes to the framework of marriage, just in general these days, both inside, outside the church, what are things that maybe you hear or see, or maybe you guys have experienced just generally of what that is meant to look like?
I think what I see culturally, like in society right now, is we continue actually for the last probably 20 years or so, but even more so, I think, in the last 5 years, you see a declining marriage rate in general. Like I think that there's a lot of people who have long-term committed relationships. They live together, they have kids, they co-parent, they do all these things, but like there's just, I think, a loss of the value of the actual covenant of marriage. It's like, well, what do we need marriage for? We have all of the what people outside the church usually would define as like, well, we have all of the other things that would be a marriage. Why do we need like the title?
Yeah, why do we need the piece of paper?
Yeah.
So what would you say to that person then?
Well, I mean, I think that's a hard conversation.
What'd you say?
You need Jesus.
Kind of, because
that's part of the problem, though, right?
No, I think it is because I don't want to get political, but I think we've gotten into this dangerous zone where we try to redefine what marriage is outside of the church, and marriage does not exist outside the church. It is defined by the Word of God, and so I think that becomes hard because if it's somebody who's not a believer, like how do you walk them into that truth? If they don't buy into the rest of it either. But I think that's a big struggle, is trying to like look at marriage as this kind of governmental institution or a piece of paper or a tax break or whatever, how people define it, when that's never what it was intended to be.
Yeah. So I think something that even in, the church world, right? If you're a Christian, it's going to be easy, right? Like, no, like it's not. You're still going to have conflict issues. And if you are not inwardly seeking a relationship with Christ, your marriage will reflect that. Something that Eric and I even chatted about on our trip is he so awesomely was just like, hey, Diana, like I've noticed this about you. Like, I don't know if you've been working on it. And I was like, no, I haven't. That's so weird. And then
weird. Okay, I'll take it back. Yeah.
And then I contemplated it more, and I was like, but you know what I have done over the past 2 years? I've been involved in a super incredible small group of women just like pouring into each other with accountability and acts of obedience. And if anything, that my pursuing of Christ and a relationship with Him has actually strengthen my marriage without me intentionally strengthening my marriage. And that's to me, facts. I feel like that was like, what a great question to ask at like such a good point of like, oh my gosh, like I have changed, like I have sought to do things better, but it was out of obedience to Christ, and that has made me a better wife.
True.
Yeah, like an unintended fruit of the other work. Because it's not like you went into your DMC or small group like intending to like, this will make me a better wife.
No.
You just went to go pour your heart and soul out
this
to your
is what
friend.
the Bible says.
You need community.
I gotta change.
Right. And through those things.
Yeah. And I think vice versa, for Eric as well is, it's not just me and my heart changing. Like Eric is, in the Word and pursuing Christ as well.
Yeah.
And so what I really want to make just everyone aware is it's not a one lane, right? It's not just me changing. It's my spouse is changing too, and he's not I believe truly that it's not because he wants to be a better husband. I think he does. But I think his relationship with Christ and him pursuing that really deep understanding of who he is in Christ and like just the different things that he's growing from in his studies has changed you as a husband as well. And so while I feel like our marriage in the past 2 years has grown incredibly, I attribute that a lot to our relationship with Christ outside of our marriage has really made our marriage become stronger.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think I would agree to that.
That's good. We didn't talk about this beforehand.
The illustration that comes to mind is a triangle. If God's at the top, and then if it's an equalateral triangle, the closer you both are to God, the closer you are together.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a great visual.
Yeah, I actually heard a recent visual similar to that with the cross in the center. It's like if you're chasing after each other, you're running around the base of the cross. You're like, and you won't. Sometimes you might catch up to each other. Sometimes you might not. Yeah. But if you're both pursuing Christ, that you end up in the same place. Yeah.
I think so. I think that's just because someone says they're a Christian doesn't mean they are. And this backs into for people who maybe aren't married or desiring to be married. It's hard enough as it is to be married if two people are loving and following Jesus. If you love and follow Jesus and your significant other doesn't, that's a recipe for disaster. Even more recipe for disaster if neither one of you are, potentially, because then it's like, well, where's your system of values? And there are people who don't know Jesus or love Jesus who have been married happily forever. So I want to acknowledge that to some degree. And just because two people claim to be Christians doesn't mean their marriage was perfect and awesome, because it's one thing to call yourself a Christian and go to church. It's another thing to be actively pursuing Christ and submitting your life and letting him transform you. Because statistically, like Christians, people in the church divorce at the same rate as people outside the church. So clearly the nominal factor of just, we're Christians, we go to church, that just means it's going to be easier or better. Nah, that ain't going to change squat to some degree. So I did some research. I would love to know your guys' thoughts on this. Or Pew did research, and I wrote down the stats. I should say. So this is 2023. So just like 18 months ago, they came out with this. So 52% of marriages end in divorce. So I think that's a trending upwards. And I think that would probably infer first marriages, because then it says 67% of second marriages end in divorce, which I find so ironic, because a lot of people are probably, well, I'm just going to get it right this time. I got it wrong the first time. It's okay, because speaks to something there. And then this is the part that got interesting: is 45% of people say people get divorced too quickly, while 55% of people say people stay in marriage for too long. So not quite 50-50, but close. And I just found that very, very interesting. But this was the part that really caught my attention. So these same people, when they're talking about marriage and other things, then they shifted, and the survey went into to asking people about what provides you with a fulfilling life. And this was the order of things. Number 1 was a career that they enjoy. Number 2 was having close friends. Number 3 was children. Number 4 was having lots of money. And then number 5 was marriage. And only 23% of people said that having marriage. And this is a survey of people who had been married or were previously married. And so again, if you're single, if you're widowed, if you're divorced, and you don't desire to get married again, you can have a fulfilled life. But again, in that context, I just found that so interesting of talking to married people, and they're saying, it's arguably one of the most important things and decisions I've made, yet it's not even top 3 of what fulfills me. So I don't know, thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is, I don't know what percentage of those married couples also had children, but I think parenting, I just think about it in that context. And there's the roommate issue, right? And I guess going back to maybe our very first question, the best advice that I've ever gotten ties into that, which it would be, this was something I read years ago that was talking about your spouse is the one that it was you and your spouse in the beginning. And then after your kids are grown and gone, it will still be you and your spouse. And like the importance of maintaining that relationship throughout all of the various phases of life you're going to go through. And so I feel like a lot of people lose that. They put themselves and their spouse and their relationship on hold for their kids or their career or whatever life phase they're in because that's like the burning bridge in front of you type of thing or the what catches your focus. And so that's kind of what I draw from that when you're talking about like people don't see their marriage as fulfilling because it's if you're not pouring into it, you're not getting anything out of it. It's just this like, oh, it exists. Like, yes, we're married in the midst of all of it, but like if you're not actively pursuing your spouse and your marriage, then like how would you expect to get anything, back out of it maybe?
So I'd be curious, you said something interesting there. You said if you're not actively pouring into it, you're probably not getting anything out of it. So like what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I think especially this is something we talk about a lot, again, in the context of like parenting is showing our kids that we prioritize our marriage, that we're not just co-parents. It's not just, mom and dad. It's like, first and foremost, this is my husband and I am his wife, and this is what a marriage looks like. And contextual history here, Ben and I both grew up in single parent homes and we didn't grow up seeing the example of what a loving marriage looked like. And so that's something that's been...
Yeah, we both watched marriages fail.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we've both like struggled with, but really prioritized of like, we need to make this work first and foremost. Like, I love my kids, but they are secondary to my marriage. That has to be first. You just
saying that right now just probably triggered a bunch of people.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure it did. Yeah.
How dare you?
Good. Get triggered.
I mean, but we've told our kids that like we love you, but like again, you don't exist if we don't exist. Like that's kind of how this all happened.
There's an ideal order to have.
Yeah.
And I think that's if you're pursuing that, like my bro science approach is this. There's 4 scenarios, right?
That's right.
3 of which end in failure.
Yeah.
Because either if you both don't want it, it's not going to work.
Yep.
If one of you wants it and the other one doesn't, if they want it and you don't, there's 3 out of 4. You both have to want it.
Right.
And it is an intentionality. It is a work. It is again, maybe you're only at 20, but there's probably something you can do every single day that puts a good deposit into it. Even if it's something as like, let me just rub your back as you stand and make dinner.
Or complain about being pregnant.
Right, yeah. Or just like, it doesn't have to be.
You're growing like human.
Yeah, like lifetime.
Yeah.
Not drawing from real experiences this week or anything.
Like last night. Yeah, it's fine. But no, I think, and also to that, like you're both individuals still.
Yeah.
So I think you need like the stronger you can be individually, the stronger you can be as a couple.
Yep.
So find things that strengthen you, or like find a small group that betters you in some way.
Yeah.
Like I have hobbies that refine me in different ways that you don't necessarily get. You have your small groups and stuff that you do that, and then we're both getting better individually and then collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you were talking about your small group, that was something that stuck out, like you talking about your individual pursuits in your faith. And I think that's something that we've seen a lot of exponential growth in the last few years also. We were in a couples group together for many years. And while there was a lot of fruit that came out of that and good discussions and good relationships and things, I think we've actually seen more growth with each other and with our own faith by having our own individual pursuit of that.
Yeah.
Both because like we're both growing individually, but I think it actually grows each other because then I share with Ben like, hey, this is what I was reading and I learned about, and like this is what God is like speaking to me, and he can do the same, and so you get like double the growth because of it, and it's just exciting to like see your spouse like have that desire and that pursuit too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what challenged me the most in my small group, what really dove us into the act of obedience, is one of the gals in our group said, hey, I struggle with submitting to my husband, and that's the act of obedience I would like for this week. And it was kind of like a trickle effect of like, okay, like I want to hear more about that. And then does that affect me? Do I need to have a better submission in that form? What does it look like to let Eric lead. And so I really truly believe that was one of the moments that took our group and was like catapulted us into, okay, we can help each other grow in Christ through accountability. And it was really cool.
No, that's all. Yeah, I think really good stuff. And I use this illustration in a sermon. It's a bunch of small deposits over time. It's a trust bank. It's a well. And we make withdrawals from that account, whether we like it or not, realize it or not. And so if we're not actively making deposits in that, it makes it more difficult that when there is a big thing, when there is a massive breach of trust, then it's like, well, shoot, there's nothing left. What do we do? Do we close out the account and whatever? Yeah. And again, the goal isn't to build up trust so that you can break it. Right. But it's there. And I think it'd be interesting. I don't know. We are not in a couples group. We have our own, she's in her DMC. I'm in a cohort, and me being lead pastor is always a little weird dynamic and stuff too. I'm always, I don't know if we've even talked about this, but I'm always curious what people think our, Diane and I's, spiritual life looks like. Because my guess is a lot of people would assume you guys probably pray for hours together every day and do a Bible study at home and all this type of stuff. And we don't really do a whole lot of that. But I think, as Diane had talked about earlier, it's very noticeable when one of us isn't super actively pursuing Jesus for ourselves. And I think for some people that is probably good, and that's probably something to, I don't know, to revisit or look at. We've tried before, and it's really awkward, and we're very different in terms. Like, I'm a morning person, and Dinah. So for me, like, hey, if we're gonna do this, you got to be up by 5 a.m. before I leave for the gym, and she can't. And then, but when I get home from work, I'm like, that's the last thing I want. My nose was in commentaries and Bibles, 4 different versions, and talking with people that I'm going to love my family and I'm going to serve them. I'm going to point them to Jesus, but doing a Bible study is maybe, not the top list of things.
And that's not to say that our conversations aren't happening. For example, this morning at 7 a.m., we were picking up landscaping rocks, shoveling them. And, conversations happen then. And, and a lot of our projects that we're doing, we get to touch base and have conversations through that. So not to say that we don't speak about it, but we do. It's just not an organized. It's not what people would probably assume it looks like. And not to say either one is right or wrong. Yeah. It's truly how we learn and grow best together, that we have learned that the conversation about, where are you? What are you doing? How's this? And it just kind of flows.
Yeah.
And I think some of that, it's going to depend on the individual person and relationship, and also sometimes the season of life that you're in. Sometimes maybe there is value of doing something together. I can think of certain times where it's like, hey, let's both read this. We might not be sitting down and doing it in an organized fashion or whatever, but to both be absorbing the same content or something like that that relates to something we're going through, know. But
so what do you guys think? We've talked a lot about advice, good advice, bad advice, what we're seeing, sensing, maybe even laying a deeper question or a more foundational question is what just makes marriage hard? I think, Diana, you were the one who said, we love each other, we're going to get married, it's going to be easy, it's going to be bliss from this point forward. And that is, talk to anybody who's been married for more than a week. It's probably this ain't a walk in the park. I do premarital counseling, talk to couples of, hey, the reason we're doing this isn't to get you married. It's to hopefully give you tools and a framework so that when things do go south or they get tense, you have at least something to draw on. The goal isn't to get you married. The goal is to the goal is not to have a ceremony, say vows, exchange rings, nuptial kiss, congratulations. The goal is to have a healthy, thriving union for the rest of your life, assuming, you do it the way God wants you to, so on and so forth. So, but it's hard nonetheless. So I don't know, just lobbing that very general question, what makes marriage tough?
Children.
Children, yeah.
And not to say that in, a disrespectful way at all. However, you're married, you're newly married, whatever. You figured it out, right? I'll make dinner. You'll come home. We've got it together. And then the first child comes. And then it's like, wait, the dinner has stopped. Wait, the house is dirty. Wait, like all of these things. And then you think you have your life together again. And then there comes number 2. And then you're like, wait, right? There's so many things. And I think toddlerhood is kind of what, for us, was probably the most difficult part of our marriage.
They're the most violent.
Where that block come from?
It's so rewarding. You know, we're out of that season. You know, thank goodness. I'm so
we're gonna throw ourselves back in. I know.
So it's actually been really cool for us to be like, we made it. You know, and I know there's gonna be more difficult things ahead with children. However, I do feel like Eric does a really good job of making sure that our children are not the center of our attention in our world,
or our bank account.
Or our bank account. I think that's where a lot of people, especially women, I'm going to speak for women, is we value that our children have the best experiences and they're taken care of. And I can be guilty of this too. And Eric is my grounding moment where he's like, no, like they will be okay. Like they will survive. Yeah. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And I do believe that's why, you know, God gave me, who wants to have control, you, who's like...
Who also wants to have...
Like, that's not it. So for us,
lace them up.
As part of marriage was adding children into the mix. What about you guys?
I think the hardest thing about marriage is it's a union of 2 broken people. Yeah. And I think no matter how much you feel like you know a person going into a marriage, there's so much just... history, upbringing, you know, things that you unravel over time, things that you don't even realize until you encounter new seasons of life or new situations. And then it's like, oh, we handled that differently, or where did that come from? And you're kind of like just experiencing it all together and figuring it out. I think you talked about like expectations. Like we bring in expectations that, like, even if we think the other person knows it, it's not always spoken or it's not always clear, and then that causes problems. And so I think, you know, back to that research, about 50% or so of people think that people get divorced too soon. Like, I think it's because people were like, you know, they hit those blocks and it's just like, like, never mind. Like, this is just too much. You're not who I thought you were, or whatever. I think it's like statistically, most people get married either within like the first around the 1 year mark or around like the 7-year mark. And then the 7-year itch or whatever, right? Like they've been together long enough that they're like, it should have worked by now. We're still running into things. Like clearly this isn't going to work long term. And I think you have to accept that, like, you're not going to stay married to the same person that you married, right? Like you better change over time. I hope
that again slowly, because I think that's really easy.
Like you're not going to stay married to the exact person that you said I do on that wedding day. You know,
they'll have the same name and roughly the same body.
Definitely
give or take, right?
Like, things change a little bit.
But no, I think, you know, over the course of your life, I couldn't even tell you like how many people, quote unquote, you'll be married to with that same spouse, right? Like, and hopefully that's the case. Hopefully you're not both staying the like 20 somethings that you were, right? Like, but I think that people, some people go into it with that expectation, because I hear that a lot. Like, well, they changed. Well, no, duh. I hope so. You know, there's good change and bad change. Sure, I'll credit that. But I think that that's one of the things that's most challenging for people is just the humanness of it, figuring yourself out, figuring out the other person, and like figuring out how you both grow without growing apart.
Yeah. Oof, that's good.
Yeah, I think what I hear from both of what you're saying is I go back to the mirror analogy where it's just like, you're going to see who you are. You may as well be on my back. Like, we don't go anywhere, even if we're separate for the day. Like, we're coming back to the same home base. We're downloading our thoughts and whatever happened, and we're running the updates. And I think it's when you have to face who you are, you either accept that challenge
or you run
or you don't. And I think I would be curious to follow up with those people who chose the divorce route. Like, was there something that you weren't doing or should have been doing, or Because it's like you're gonna find my imperfections, and vice versa, and that's the refinement piece. That's what your kids will show you. There's been so many times I'll be reprimanding my son, and the words that come out of my mouth are the words I needed to hear. Right. Like it's like, oh, that wasn't for him.
Or
like
vice versa. The kids say something that you're like, oh, that was me right there.
That's
like
right.
you see
they're
yourself.
the ugliest mirrors.
You see yourself in them.
They will make you.
And so that
terrible.
speaks to the change piece, right? Because if you are noticing that thing like, oh, that's off, that's ugly, I don't like that. Like,
but you're not doing something about it.
That's
then
what drives the change.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, you're going to change, do the work to change in the proper ways.
Right.
You know, because
do the work.
Do the work, dog.
You got to do something hard.
Yeah.
People are so afraid to do difficult things.
And we drift. And I think that's the thing is we naturally drift and are pulled back to our own selfishness, our own pride, our own desires and wants.
Yeah.
And marriage is the primary relationship outside of our relationship and union with Christ, in which we are called to constantly serve, surrender, pursue. And so if you're not doing that, I think that's what I would say why it's hard is we have a tendency to think we can coast. And you're never coasting. You're either getting better or you're getting worse, or you're either becoming who Christ has created you to be, desires who you are to be through the power of his Spirit and the transforming work of his word, or you are slipping back towards the sin that so easily entangles. There is no constant. We don't just exist. You know, as you said, all right, we said I do. You're going to be this way at this weight and this personality and dislikes and dislikes for the rest of the
lock it in.
Lock it in, boom, press the button. You know,
this is what I committed to.
There is no stagnancy, if that's even the right word, in which we just stay the same. And so I think the reason marriage is hard, I'm curious, is because do a lot of people decide to not win the war within? And if you are unioned and covenanted to another soul, and if you are not winning your own inner war, you are then not winning the war for that other person.
Well, I mean, in the book of John, shout out to John.
Shout out
John.
With Jesus and the adulteress, right? He said, go, repent, and sin no more. And something that our culture has a really hard time of doing is repenting. Hey, I messed up. And then changing. You know, there could be a lot of, hey, I messed up. And then you do the same thing over and over and over again. And that means your repentance did not truly come from the heart. And you're not actively pursuing to fix your relationship with Christ, which then would be a reflection of your marriage. And so, like, one of the best advice I think that I could walk away with now, 13 years in, is if I feel convicted to change, I better change, right? That's the Holy Spirit telling me, hey, this is not right, and I have to act on that, or it's not true repentance.
Repentance is it's a 180. It's an about face. It's more than saying sorry. Whatever.
Sing it.
And I think that's, well, sorry. I said sorry. It's like, but we're on the 50th time you doing this. So do you need help? Where can I support you? What can I do?
And that's where grace comes in.
That's where grace comes in. However, I would also, and there are parts of, like, if we're talking abuse, if we're talking neglect, if we're talking isolation, if we're talking aggressively domineering one another, whatever it is, grace runs out much quicker, and that's a whole different topic. I think we have to be careful, though. Our culture loves to diagnose people with certain things, everything left and right. And it's like, they might exhibit that, but who hasn't exhibited a narcissistic tendency at some point in their life? We all have, men and women. But is this pattern verbose? And are they saying sorry? Are they getting help? Like, do they need to be on medication or whatever? So I think that's where the balance is. Repentance it's a 180. It's a military term. You go in the opposite direction. You don't just say, oops, sorry, I had a bad day. And
you're aiming at the wrong thing. You're heading in the wrong direction.
Correct. And that's where I think, as you guys both mentioned, like, the spouse and or kids becomes the mirror quickly to show you like, oh my gosh. Like the amount of times I'm like trying to talk calm to my kids and then a random is like, you know, what are you like, golly, we're still like there's times where I look at my life, I'm faithfully following Jesus for 20-ish years now. And I'm like, man, I'm still wrestling with some of this stuff. Like I don't have anything figured out at this point. I thought I would be probably farther along, and maybe I am, but maybe I'm not at the same point too. And so then one of the things, and lob this back in there, is we talked about change. It is not your job to change your spouse. You cannot change your spouse. So thoughts? You
can only do your work.
Yeah.
I think that's as simply as I can put it. I can encourage you. I can try and support you if there are changes you're trying to make, but I can't get in there and drive the car for you. That's your journey. That's your faith walk.
So how have you guys navigated that when, hey, I see that you are going through a stretch, or there's something that we need to kind of, this ain't good. We can't keep doing this. Like this is toxic or this is unhealthy. You know, what have you guys found in being a faithful, supportive spouse in that, while at the same time too, not being a doormat?
So the thing that comes to mind, it's not like a toxic like issue per se. It's really not an issue at all. But thinking about like a time that I desired change in Ben, and I would have loved to push it myself. But it's one of those things that you look back and I'm like, thank God that he had his own plan for this. Was that Ben and I have had very different faith walks and upbringings. And so there was a season of life that I was much more committed to Christ and in the Word and things like that. And I desired that for Ben. And sometimes it was very frustrating for me of like, well, why doesn't he get it? Why doesn't he want this? What, you know, and there was like that desire to change. But then again, it's one of those like hindsight's 20/20 when you look back and see the way that God worked through that. And the only thing I could do and the only thing I really did was pray for it and try to give that up to God and trust in his timing. And it was way better than if it had been, if I had the ability to have changed him or convinced him or pushed him, like, first of all, it probably wouldn't have been actually genuine anyway.
Sure.
But also like the beauty of all the things that have transpired since then, like it just wouldn't have aligned the way that God had intended. And so one thing that I think I've been taught through that and through some other interactions, even with other friends, is like that God does not convict all of us of the same things at the same time. And we all have a different journey and a different timing. And just because someone's walk might even look similar to yours, like the pacing of that and the diversions that are going to happen on that path might not look the same as what yours are. And so I think part of it is just trusting that even though you might not be seeing that change that you're desiring, again, it kind of is another surrender thing, right? Like that it's not your path to forge and it's not your change to make. And you just have to pray and trust that God's going to continue to work in that. And I think there's other, marital issues that obviously it's like, hey, if we're having this same fight over and over and over again.
Let's get some help. Let's get
I think there's a lot of different avenues. And I think that's going to depend on the situation. It's also going to depend on the personalities and the dynamics of your relationship, whether that's something that should be addressed together. I think there's a time and a place for, like formal counseling or seeking out things together. I think for us, a lot of times, I found that Ben needs to pursue things independently. I need to encourage and support him to do that. But me forcing that to do it together isn't the healthiest thing. I think that's
you
usually
can't tell somebody to say sorry.
You can, but it won't mean it.
Is it genuine?
Right.
Probably not.
I mean, I have this tendency to say, like, if we're having the same conversation over and over again, that I'll say, well, what are you doing about it?
Sure.
And sometimes that's really annoying, but it's like that action orientation of like, okay, what's going to get us out of this cycle of like continuing to complain about the same thing? Yeah. Is there
spreadsheets on spreadsheets?
Sometimes but no, it's like, what are you spending your time? Ben listens to a lot of podcasts and things during the day. He has an opportunity in his work to be able to like absorb a lot of material. Right. So it's like, what are you spending your time? Like, what are you pouring into your brain all day long? Like, is there something that you could be doing to address this? And I think that's honestly a lot of things that we've seen shifts in the last couple of years, especially have been a lot of like the content you're choosing. It's like, hey, I'm having this issue with, wanting to improve our marriage, wanting to improve parenting, wanting to improve this, that, and whatever, and like seeking out those resources independently, and just feeding yourself.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Are there elite banking families running the world and making us do whatever they want us to? Absolutely. Does that help my marriage to focus on that for 7 hours a day? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
Is it interesting? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely it is.
But to speak to that, like,
which part?
No, we're on the real topic. Yeah.
Curveball. No, I think we live in the realm owned by the deceiver, right? So anything that is going to pull you away, it does not matter what that thing is. It is, if it can grab your attention where God should have it, that's a win. And those things are going to happen. That's the other thing that makes marriage so hard. There's so much potential exponential good that can come from two people making that choice. Whether if like we are creating an army of soldiers, right? Like I have no idea what my children are going to do. I hope they can continue that. But if you can cause us to stumble and fall, like you cut that off at the legs.
That's good. First Lady, anything?
I mean, I just would agree with Katlyn about, if you were to look in my prayer journal, which I mean, you can if you want, you would see that there's a lot of prayers in there, for you, Eric. And right?
No pressure.
I think they are.
There's still a lot of active ones.
That's right.
But I think that's the cool part is, same as Katlyn, where I haven't like outwardly said, hey, blank, 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 like in nagging. Instead, like I have written it, I've journaled it, and I go back and I like put a little plus sign next to it when that prayer has been answered. And I think
Boom,
that's
nice. Nailed it.
I just think that's the power of prayer, because if you don't see, like if you don't go back, right, and see like this is what I've been praying for and God has answered this so many times, instead of just harping on what's in front of me, you totally lose sight of the transformation of prayer and what it can do for you and your spouse without me having to say anything to you in that realm. But I didn't just pray for you. I also prayed for my heart as well. If there was a disagreement, like I was in prayer that my heart would shift, and that if I was in the wrong, that it would be made known. And I think that's a powerful tool that has worked for me, and so that I can show gratitude to the Lord for those answered prayers of change.
Yeah.
And I think you make a really good point, because you can pray for change to happen, or you can pray for, clarity or whatever. But I think it is that like counterbalance of also recognizing like, hey, I hope that this is the path you're leading my husband on, and I desire this. But if it's not, help me have peace with that. Help me understand what, our next step is then. Because otherwise you get into that genie God, right? That we talk about is like, oh, well, I asked him to, change my husband, make him this totally different person, and he didn't do it. So,
well, there's the bamboo analogy?
Yeah.
Like the lag time can be the problem, or the difficult thing. Like
it doesn't grow for like 7
years.
On the
surface,
the 7th
it's year,
like
and
then
shoots
8
up.
inches tall, something like that. It doesn't
but it's growing in the depth.
Doesn't look like it's doing
roots.
anything, but down below it's setting roots, and then all of a sudden
in
it's
the 7th
like
year it can shoot
10
up
to 12 feet.
Well, so that backs into, for anybody who isn't married and desires to be married, you got to really know like that person and what their heart is and what they are pursuing. Because if you're not sure about that, you might be marrying a dud.
Right.
And if you made the commitment, you made the commitment.
Yep.
And God is not for flippant divorce or just divorce just cause, or we're just not, we fell out of love. Nobody falls. That's, I think we've talked like that's an emotion.
Yep.
Love is an action. It's something we choose to do. You can't fall in and out of action. You either choose to do it or you don't. And so like there's times where I'll look at people like, my husband won't do it. It's like, cool. Is he abusive? No. Did he cheat on you? No. Cool. You chose him.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds harsh, but that's also the reality. So make really, really good effort to know every aspect of their life, because you are not choosing them as long as they make you happy or as long as they don't change. Right. And there's this weird dynamic of, I think women might catch flack for this, really, really want to play mom and change their husband, whereas men just don't want to change, period. So it's this weird like balancing act. I think especially once kids get involved too, then wife, it's really easy for her to become mom of kids and dad. And then dad just becomes roommates. Like, well, I've paid my half of the utilities and I picked up the groceries on the way home, but I don't really want to like change what I want or desire or who I am. So I think that's the other, like when it comes to very stereotypical things, when it comes to gender, and this is, it's not for every single person, but that's what I've noticed a lot in talking with a lot of couples is the wife comes in, he needs to change. Okay, well, what about you? Well, what about, no, he needs to and then, okay, all right, bro, like, is there any merit to this? I am who I am. I don't want to get better. I don't want to be different. And so it becomes like a projection of you either need to change for me or I just don't want to change, period, whatsoever.
Well, this goes back to the aversion of people not wanting to do difficult things, right? And
absolutely.
Our culture is like, hey, you want something? I can give it to you tomorrow.
Instant
Amazon will get it.
gratification.
It's everything's easy. If it's not easy, something's off with it.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you're, I know for our dynamic, like it took you, because your personality type is like, if there's something not being done, you are going to step in and do it.
Yeah.
And some things that's okay. But for other things, it's like that was causing a larger issue that once we recognized it, we were able to be like, oh, like we have different tolerances for house cleanliness or like when things bother you, right? Like it's...
Or why it bothers me.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah.
It's like getting to learn those things. That's half that battle too.
Yeah, for sure.
I just saw this marriage video yesterday, actually, and they were portraying like a couple coming to their wedding, and the husband and wife or the bride and groom see each other, and the groom's mind says, "There's perfection," and like wants that to stay exactly as is, and the bride looks at him, and in her mind it says, "There's potential."
Oh, dang!
But it's a sadly true dynamic for a lot of relationships, and I think to the point of like, yes, while people are going to change, it might not be in the way or the timing that you hope or expect it to. And so that I think is the other downfall when people think they will be able to change them, is I hear sometimes like, be like, well, you knew this about this person before you married them. They're like, well, yeah, but I thought they'd grow out of it. Or I thought that I'd be able to fix this issue or whatever.
He's going to stop playing video games when we get married.
I just know it.
And so I tell people the best indication of the person they're going to be in the marriage is who they are before. So if you don't have evidence of somebody who is growing, changing, disciplined, clean, whatever, just because you say I do, it's not a magic wand. And
so I think that speaks to advice to the single people out there is like, be somebody who's worth marrying. Like,
absolutely.
Get yourself in a point of your life where you are confident in who you are, you have those disciplines, you have those things, you're feeding your spiritual growth.
And don't settle.
Like
don't, just because he has a job and he treats you well, but like if he don't go to church and love Jesus, that's a no. That's a nothing
my parents'
burger.
marriage failed, I think, for multiple reasons. One of which is they did not have faith as something to fall back on. So they can be a great person. But where are they when things start to suck?
When the going gets tough.
For sure.
Who do you turn to? What do you turn to?
Or what do you turn to? Yeah, no, it's good. Well, we'll kind of wrap it up with just like a practicals. Like what would be something that you guys have learned or experienced or put into practice or anything along those lines for your guys' marriage, or you can, for ours as well too. And that could be something of how do you pour into your marriage? Have you learned to navigate conflict or have hard conversations or any of those things?
Okay, so I have two.
Yeah.
One's a part A, part B.
Okay, well,
Let it rip.
We've had two phrases that kind of define or are like a through line.
Yeah,
so one
for
of
sure.
them is come what may.
Okay.
The other is this too shall pass.
All right.
And they kind of can encapsulate a lot of what you're going through.
Yeah.
Good and bad. Like even when it's good, that's going to pass too.
Yeah.
And just be here now, but know what we're aiming at together.
Yeah.
Is the other thing too. The other one would be a practical daily, like, how can I serve you today? And then let them answer. Instead of trying to guess what you need
and then do that thing or just, cool, thanks for letting me know.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, depends how
Hopefully.
she's being. Right?
That could be demanding.
Yeah.
If it's like, hey,
No, actually, usually I can't think of
go
something.
to Arby's
I have a
at
hard time.
9:45. They close at 10.
Quick.
You're going to get there fast.
You can
They
outserve
close
one
at
another.
10.
Right.
You're gonna-
Yeah. Like that's how that's a great way to compete.
Yeah.
I think we just commit to spending a lot of time together. Honestly, I mean, we have our own independent time too, but like he's my best friend. Like no over exaggeration by any means. Like we spend a lot of time just sharing with each other and talking and but I think one of the areas that I think I've seen a lot of growth in is our conflict management.
Yeah.
We were talking about this recently. I was saying like I look back and like I used to fight dirty. Like I fought mean.
Started doing jujitsu.
Yeah. We would default to like not that we ever, I don't think truly meant that divorce was ever on the table, but sometimes it would be brought up in a fight. And we reached a point where we had to like good sit down and talked through. And it was like, okay, we both have said from the very beginning, like before we ever even got engaged, like divorce is not an option. So we have to stop throwing it out there as if it's an option and take that completely off the table and never use it as like a threat or a level of severity. Like you need to know how upset I am, how severe this
I think that
is.
stems from our upbringings as well, right? Because being from a broken home, like I never felt worth the time and attention. So I would retract and like force the issue. Like the people who want to give me time and attention will reach out. And I think that's kind of what that threat of divorce is. It's like, well, does this mean something to you? Like, are you going to fight for this? Are you like, let's force the issue here, kind of.
Right.
Not that we meant it, but again, we had to have that argument 50 times to realize like, oh, wait, there's a pattern here. And it's not because we both want to get divorced. We clearly don't.
No.
Yeah.
But like, what is the underlying thing that keeps coming up?
So I think a lot of it has been for us as far as practicals, like digging into some of that past context and understanding what drives each of us, what triggers both of us. But then kind of circling back to something that I was talking about at the very beginning, is like understanding each other's conflict styles or needs and communication styles. And some of that you kind of,
right? Like those are kind of played out, but they're super
but
effective.
there's a
to
reason
know.
that they exist, right? And some of that you just learn over time and through experience, but some of it is very intentional conversations as well. And I think it reflects a desire to know your spouse better and to understand them on a different level.
Yeah. So when it comes to like fighting styles, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, are like four. That's like how we respond to any emotive situation we find ourselves in. So you can go into the different styles though of do you pull out a bazooka and just try to blow them out of the water? Do you do cyber warfare
Scorched earth.
are you one of Dinah and I's things is always you don't get to pull out your list when I'm the one who put the issue on the table. I think that was a big thing we both did to each other a lot was
The whatabouts.
No,
I'm like, you did this. Well, here's the list
Correct.
of
Exactly.
things that
Things that I've hidden away, right?
Yeah.
I've been naughty. I kept them in my pocket.
Yeah. So it's like the person to have the hard conversation is being bold and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
And so then it's like, no, now I'm instead of me hearing that and seeking to understand, I think the most powerful phrase in any relationship marriage is help me understand.
Yeah.
And then follow it up with I'm sorry or whatever. And it typically, that's not natural for anybody. Yeah. It typically becomes, well, what about blah, 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 blah. Like, well, I talked about, what about my thing? Doesn't matter because I've got 6 things that I've been holding on to. It's like, well, that's your fault. Like, you've been holding on to them.
Why are you holding on to them?
Yeah. And so you gotta have the courage, and, you know, and that speaks to, is there trust and is there vulnerability and openness? So I understand that from that standpoint. So yeah, fighting dirty is something that I think a lot of people do, probably without thinking about it. And one of the things I help with couples to say is talk to the problem, not at the person.
Yeah, that's good.
Meaning, if hey, we're having a disagreement over chores or something, and you didn't blah blah blah. Never speak in altruisms. You always or you never, because that's probably not the case. And I'm quick to speak in those. Like, those just fly out of my mouth.
That's
and
always
Diana,
not the case.
that is always the case. And Diana caught me like, what, a week ago, a week and a half ago. I was like, yep, you're right. That's not fair. So I had to own that in that moment. And she was super graceful to say, but I hear what you are communicating. And so that was good. But I always say, and if you have to, like, take an inanimate object and make that the problem and talk to the problem, because when you're, you know, looking at someone in the eye and you're talking, well, you did all of a sudden you were talking through the problem and now you're like mad at that person. When in reality, it's something, an unmet expectation, or somebody forgot something or whatever. And so you shift it. You stand side by side. Right. Let's talk about the issue.
Because the problem isn't her.
Correct.
It's the problem.
The problem is the problem, not the person. Yeah.
Right.
Good. And that's where forgiveness comes in, because something that I cannot do is say, okay, I forgive you, but then hold it over his head. That's not okay. And if he was vulnerable enough to ask for forgiveness, I truly need to let go of it and move on and not hold that back.
That was good. Yeah, the other practicals I would add would be I wrote down 3. I was hoping some of you guys would pick up some of these, but
see, we didn't talk about it before.
The 5-to-1 ratio. 5 positive interactions to every 1 negative. If you're listening to this, looking up John and Julie Gottman are probably the best when it comes to marriage therapy, and we'll bore you with how they do study and stuff, but they found it's a 5-to-1 ratio for healthy, thriving marriages of positive interactions to negative and or neutral ones. And because and the irony is, for couples that are unhappy and on the verge or heading toward divorce, it's not 1 to 5, it's like 1 to 1 or 2 to 1. So that speaks to, there are still positives. So fixating on the positive, that's a super biblical thing. Fixate on what is pure, lovely, noble, admirable. Fixate your mind on those things, and you will start to see the good in your spouse, instead of, he da-da-da-da or she blah, 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 but this and this and this and this. And so I would say the 5-to-1 ratio, we talked about it kind of briefly. Look out for firsts and sevenths is kind of what my counselor talked to me about. What she was saying that every time there's a big first, so when you first get married, when you have your first kid, the first big move, the first job change or whatever, and then the sevenths, the 7-year itch is, and sometimes it's, for some people it's 7 years, some people it's 5, some people it's 10, whatever it is. It's just a general term there. And so if it's been 14 years, or sometimes the way that the 7 works out is, it is whatever a normal pattern that has existed in your life or relationships. Right. And so if every single one of your relationships prior lasted 2 years and you get to the 2-year mark, you might all of a sudden start finding flaws or wanting to get out of this or whatever. Why is that? Oh, because every 7 years, quote unquote, my cycle. And this applies to even our workplaces. If you change jobs every 3 years, then you get to that 3rd year and now all of a sudden people are on your nerves, or you think the administration's stupid, and maybe they are, but whatever it is. And some of it is just no, that's just, you have set yourself in that cycle. So that's what she always talks about, firsts and sevenths or cycle. And then the other big one that comes out of the premarital counseling assessment tool we use. So as marriage goes on, the number one thing that men want is companionship. The number one thing that women want is pursuit. And so as marriage goes on, those are the 2 things that tend to go by the wayside. Is men don't have a companion, a partner to do fun things together, to have a life of friendship with, it becomes very insular. Well, you go do your things. And so I would say to any of the wives listening, like, just being in your husband's presence, like, will mean the world to him. Even if it's something you could care less about, just being around would be like, just make his day. Just make his day. You know, he wants to go golf. You don't like golfing. Go ride in the golf cart. Or
like watching the Dodgers.
Watching his baseball.
Wear that.
But she will sit and watch the Dodgers, and because like that means the world to me. And she's probably like, this is so boring. And like being like invested, don't sit there on your phone. I mean, somewhat this and that, whatever. But and then vice versa, like for men. And I always have to remind myself of this, but like still date or / pursue your wife. So one of the things that wooed her at the beginning, continue to do those things, because that'll help her feel valuable, important, seen, cherished, is, to use Ephesians 5. That is our primary purpose as husbands, is to love and cherish our wives as Jesus loved the church, which is a constant pursuit. And it's not, we wait for them to submit to us and respect us, and then we pursue, we pursue them first. We set the example, we lead out. And as a result of our love, our pursuit, and our submission to Christ, we receive that respect and submission in return. Well, this has been fun, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks for your openness and sharing, and thanks for insights. I got to go down here to see because of the crossbar. But again, just our prayer before this was that this would be insightful and encouraging to people, maybe helpful, maybe challenging. And so if you are listening to this, watching this, and you have more questions, or you're a part of our church and you desire to, maybe your marriage is in not a great spot. We are in the process of developing not just a marriage conference, but a marriage ministry of sorts into the future. And I also say, it's okay to, even if things are fine, that's probably a good point to get some triage. You'd be like, hey, let's just go get, a check-in and see how things are going. We're not calling it quits. We love each other. Things are going great, but maybe there's a tune-up that we need. I think that would be something that would be huge for a lot of couples.
Well, it's a never-ending game, right? And you can always get better. The trap is we shouldn't compare our marriage to yours, even though they're both 13 years. They both look very different. Is our marriage stronger than it was 6 months ago?
Yeah.
If that answer is yes, then carry on.
Yep. So,
But I think the healthiest, the best time to work on your marriage is when there aren't
things to work on,
major issues. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just when you're, fighting, don't fight when you're in the heat of the moment and you're emotional about it and things like that. When you're calm and can think logically and level-headed about it, you make the most progress when things are actually in a good place.
Yeah, it's have a self check-in when, all right, things are good. Cool. How are we doing as a unit? How are we doing as a team, as a partnership? What can I be doing better to serve you, and vice versa? What do you need from me? Here's what I need from you.
Don't wait till the issue arises.
Don't wait till the issue arises. I guess the other really practical that we shared in our meeting yesterday was if you don't have a family meeting of sorts to here's what our schedule looks like and whatnot, start one ASAP. And I think that'll resolve a ton of issues because you just know what to expect in a given week too. So that was the other thing there. So yeah, awesome. But thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
And until next time, go be the church where you live, work, and play. We'll see you later.
Thank you for downloading this episode of Go Be the Church. Make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and follow us on social media.